So we are reading Aghora, the left hand of God. We are on chapter 1, page number 41 of the book and page number 23 of the PDF.
Chapter 1 Ma. To be a guru, you have to say, I know I can teach you. But if I say that, well, I'm finished. I can never learn anything else. I have shut myself off from anything new. If I remain a student all my life, though, I will always be ready to learn new things.
So this is very, very important. Okay. The moment I say I know everything, I can learn nothing. So actually speaking, all of us need to be a student all our lives. That's why you have to keep that childlike quality around you. You have to keep learning new things. You have to keep doing new things. That is what keeps life in the growth path. The moment you say, I know everything, you're finished.
I never call any of the people who come to me for spiritual guidance disciples. I am just an ordinary person. I have lived unknown and I will die unknown, except to a few. I am not interested in anything the world can offer me, and even if I die tomorrow, I have no regrets. I have lived my life to the fullest. I have done enough. I'll always be thankful to nature for permitting me to achieve so much. I will never have disciples, only children, because that is the way a real guru should treat a disciple, as a spiritual son or daughter. And the bond between them is far more intense than between a physical parent and child.
So again, if you really see over here, I have lived as an unknown and I will die an unknown. Okay. I am not interested in anything that the world can offer me. So operating from a total state of total detachment. And then he adds that if I die today, I don't have any regrets. So there is no regret in his life. He is just living in the moment, doing whatever he wants to do. Then he comes to the point of disciples, right? Having a disciples, that means you take 100% responsibility for your disciple. But if you have children, the child is also responsible for himself. But there is a tremendous bond between a parent and a child. And if the guru starts teaching, whoever is with him, he starts treating them as children, then that bond becomes even more intense. So it is not a guru bond, but it is something which is slightly different and much more profound.
Even if the child is wicked or wayward, do the parents stop loving it? No. In fact, if they are true parents, they will love the child all the more because that child gives them an opportunity to demonstrate their generosity and love, just as in the case of the prodigal son. The parents have a chance to forgive the child, and that feeds the ego. So, no matter what a child,
So over here, what happens? The You see, the parents will always love the child who is not competent or totally can look after himself. They will care and give more attention to that child. Okay. The child who can look after himself is generally not cared for so much because the parents feel that yes, this he can or she can look after herself, so she doesn't need that kind of attention. So the child who is off track generally gets more attention. That's not to say that you should become that child.
so no matter what a child might do, its parents are always bound to love it if they are true parents. It is the same way with the Guru and his disciples. No matter where the child goes or how much he curses the Guru, the mentor knows the child must return eventually. Where will he go? The Guru can afford to wait for the child and forgive him when he returns.
So again, over here, the very, very nice principle he has made that if someone connects and they get wavered, they leave. The guru doesn't run after them. The guru sits still and waits. If the child is meant to return, the child will return. So anyone who's leaving an organization, if they are meant to return, they will return. Where will they go? If the guru is a true guru.
Once there was a guru who made one of his disciples put on a loincloth and then sent him out into the world. Tying on a loincloth symbolized that the boy was meant to be a celibate mendicant. Everything went fine for the boy until one day when he washed his loincloth, and while it was hanging up to dry, a mouse came along and chewed up part of it. The boy said to himself, "This will never do. I need a cat." So he got a cat to save his loincloth from mice. But then the cat had to eat, so he made arrangements for a cow to provide milk for the cat. Who will look after the cow? A cowherd was engaged to cut grass to feed the cow. But then, how to pay for the cowherd? A field was taken and farming was begun, so there would be produce with which to pay the cowherd. The farm in turn required labor, and in addition, the boy had to live nearby in order to oversee it. So a house was constructed. Who is to run the house? A wife is necessary. So the boy married and threw away the loincloth, which was the cause of the whole mess in the first place.
So this is the way that we get caught up in materialism. One thing leads to the other. You get one thing and then you have to do something else to take care of it. So again, the principle of detachment, the principle of letting go, not getting caught in the circus, that again comes up.
When the Guru returned to that area after some time to check on his disciples' progress, he was amazed to see a large farmhouse and cultivated fields where he had expected to find jungle. Outside the gate of the house was a watchman who asked the Guru what business he had in the neighborhood. When the Guru asked where his boy might be, the watchman replied, "Sahib, oh, he is in his house." The Guru said to himself, "Wow, wow, my boy. So you have become a great man, a Sahib," and went into the house to meet the boy. After the usual greetings, he told his disciple, "Look how you have got yourself re entangled in the world. Now don't worry, I am here to save you. Forget all this and come back with me to the jungle." The boy replied, "Oh no, Maharaj, this is much more to my liking. I intend to stay here." The Guru didn't say anything else but just went off a little distance to meditate. Within a short time, the disciple's mind changed completely. He realized the cage he had created for himself and he left everything and returned to his Guru. This disciple, this is the kind of Guru to have. One who, once he accepts you as his disciple, never forsakes you until the end, come what may. The bond between Guru and disciple is stronger than any other, which is why the Guru is to be respected even before God.
So this becomes important. Okay. So the guru went off. He didn't say anything to the disciple, but created a field in his mind which would get the disciple back on track. Right. No force over here, but love and care. So the guru really cares for the disciple, wants to make the disciple follow a path, which is what his life path is all about. And again, the guru is to be respected even before God. There is one big question that always keeps cropping up. And we are told that in a temple, don't bow to anyone, right? In my view, this is my view. I mean, today, as far as I am concerned, my parents are my first guru, right? So wherever I meet them, even if it's in the temple, I will khaw dhok to them even before I khaw dhok to God. And this has been in my principle for a very long time. My father keeps telling me, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it. But in my view, my parents are my first gurus. So they come even before God, as far as I am concerned. And this is exactly what he's saying, which is why the guru is to be respected even before God.
People come to me for many reasons, Basically, though, they come because they are miserable. Most of them have worldly miseries and are satisfied with worldly happiness, which is why I don't talk to most people about spirituality. Most people are just not interested in experiencing anything other than food, sleep, and sex, no matter what they may claim. I'm sorry, but it's true. And the few who are after more in life are mainly after the happiness which the world can provide them: fame, money, possessions, children, whatever. Very, very few are really interested in spirituality.
So what does he say? Most people are just not interested in experiencing anything other than food, sleep, and sex. So what is it? You get up in the morning, you eat your food, then you have sex, you go back to sleep. And if you see, most people are caught up only in this cycle. They keep going round and round. Okay, they'll get up, they'll go to work, they'll come home, they'll eat, they'll drink, they'll have sex, they'll go to sleep. So this is the circuit which is going on every day, day in and day out. And if you're really seeing what is happening, I think 99% of the people are basically caught up in this cycle only. The person who's awake, who's actually looking for some growth, who's looking for some kind of a dynamism, some kind of a progress, is very, very limited. In most cases, you will find that even if it is in front of them, they will tend to ignore it. Now, even if they indulge in something spiritual, it is a cult. Okay, I need to be seen in that particular function because of that. So again, it is the game of fame, money, possession, right? So the point is that when you start seeing beyond that, that is when your growth really starts to take place. What are we really looking for? Because at the end, money can only take you to a certain extent. This is also the reason why in the Western countries spirituality is get coming into vogue a lot, because they've understood that materialism cannot bring you happiness at the end of the day.
And this is the way it should be. If everyone became spiritual and lost interest in the world, all our society would grind to a halt. So, the yoga which teaches you to go out into the jungle is not meant to be taught to everyone. This is why I have not been able to find language foul enough to express how I feel about the so called yogis, swamis, and godmen who India has been exporting to the West to teach spirituality. Yoga is not a system of physical jerks. Know it once and for all. Yoga is meant to make every home a happy home. When every family member is giving out his or her best to unite the family and make it a success, that is real yoga. And I don't mean the family you were born into or married into necessarily. Whoever you live with is your family. As we say in Sanskrit, Vasudeva Kutumbakam. We are all members of God's family.
So again, every aspect of life is important. The commerce is also important. The yogis are also important. But what is the state of consciousness with which you are doing something? That, in my view, is even more important. So you can be doing anything, but it can be a spiritual practice. So you can be engaged in marketing, you can be engaged in teaching, you can be engaged in gardening, you can be engaged in horse riding. Anything that you do, what is the consciousness with which you do it? Okay, and over here he clearly says that we have to work as if everyone is a part of us. So again, the concept of wholeness, the concept of oneness starts to come into the picture. If I consider everyone to be a part of me, then I'm not going to end up harming anyone. I will end up caring for everyone. We mentioned previously that village in South America where everyone was in Focus 12, right? Everyone looked after each other. So everyone was in harmony with each other. There was no conflict in that place. Okay, so this is what the ideal society would be, where everyone cared for each other, everyone pulled their weight. There was no laziness. So yoga also means no laziness. It's not only the asana, but it's a state of being at the end of the day.
So when people come to me for instruction, I don't tell them to do the exercises or to pay priests to do some rituals on their behalf or to go on pilgrimage or anything else like that. I tell them to first clear up their personal lives. Most people are not destined to become truly spiritual in this lifetime, and there is no use in trying to force them to. They will just become miserable.
So now
If
this becomes important over here, right? Doing something yourself is much more important than getting someone else to do it for you. Because when you do it yourself, you are experiencing the process also, right? That is extremely important. The other thing is that we need to know what is our propensity, what is our life goal, what is our life vision that we were born with. Now, all of us, before we are born, in the before life, we decide what we want to experience in this life. That is the perfect vision that we have of what we want to do in this life. Now, of course, when we come here, we forget that vision. So many times we get diverted out of that line that we have created for ourselves, right? The kind of lessons that we wanted to learn, we get diverted from that track. The universe will constantly prompt us to come back in the track, and that is where the patterns start coming into our lives. So we need to pay attention to the patterns, because that indicates that where you are going off track. So the moment you pay attention and transcend the pattern, you tend to come back on the track. Now, after we pass on, there is a concept of the life review, where you actually view what you have done in the life and you compare yourself. There is no judgment, right? You are yourself comparing what was your life vision, because you come back into that knowledge again when you go into the afterlife, and what you view what you actually did. So what was the diversion? And then you decide that, okay, what are the lessons I still need to learn? And then you create the next life for yourself. So over here he clearly says most people are not destined to become truly spiritual in this lifetime, and there is no use trying to force them to. They will just become miserable. So if you are miserable, you are not on your life path. At the end of the day, basically that is what the game is all about, to getting to know what your life path is and getting onto it truly and surely.
if they are downright materialistic, well, I always say, for those who believe in God, no proof of his existence is necessary. For those who do not believe in God, no proof is possible. If they are partly materialistic and partly spiritual, the two guru will see that they marry happily and live contentedly and observe simple spiritual practices. This will ensure their progression for future lives. The ones who are destined for it, the ones who have already done plenty of preparation in past existences, will be taught fully.
So again, there is no answer to the what if question, right? Now, if you believe in something, you believe it. If you don't and you ignore it, then there is nothing that is going to make you believe it. So in the past, I used to get after people a lot. You do this is it, this is it, this is it. Now, after getting beaten up, I've come to understand that भाई अगर उसको समझना है तो वो अपने आप समझेगा, नहीं समझना है तो कुछ भी कर लो वो नहीं समझेगा. So there is no point in forcing people to do anything. Our job is to put it in front of them, and whether they take it or not is their responsibility and their business. So over here he clearly says, for those who believe in God, no proof of his existence is necessary. For those who do not believe in God, no proof is possible.
The guru does not need his physical body to guide you, remember. He may use other teachers or he may work directly through nature. The first year of my life, I took mother's milk. The next 5 years, nothing but cow's milk. For the next 8 years, I lived on nothing but three fistfuls of chickpeas. I would soak them overnight in water and then take one fistful morning, afternoon, and evening. No one told me to do it. It just seemed to me to be the right thing to do. Then, for 3.5 years, I ate nothing but green chilies and water. When I finally started eating what people would call normal food, I began by taking only raw vegetables because I wanted something crunchy, something to bite. You know how animals always prefer their food to be raw? For 23 years, I never tasted salt just because I didn't want to.
So again, the guru does not need to be physically present to guide you. So that is what, even in the workshop, in the excursion, we keep saying that be aware, because nature will always tell you. How the guidance will come, we don't know, right? So we need to be aware as to what the nuances of the shifts are, what is happening around us, what is something trying to tell us. Like for example, I told you when I first came to know about the Monroe Institute, the book actually fell off the shelf. So what happens now? You pay attention. So if something happens around you which grabs your attention because you are paying attention, then you need to act on it. Okay. And then if you have done sadhana in a previous incarnation, see, there is always evolution, there is never devolution in spiritual growth. So if you have done some practice previously, it will come with you. You will grow with it. You will never devolve. The progression is always upwards. So even consciousness progresses upwards. So there is consciousness in the mineral world. Now, so the mineral consciousness converts into plant consciousness into insect consciousness into reptilian consciousness. That consciousness goes into mammalian consciousness. Then we come. So we are the epitome of consciousness development at this point in time. And what are we here for? To evolve further. Okay, so what he's saying on the austerities of that he started doing himself, it means that he had done these austerities, he had done the practices in the previous births, which is now manifesting in this birth also.
One day during my boyhood, I was standing alone doing nothing in particular when suddenly, like a bolt of lightning, I heard a mantra. I liked it and started to repeat it. No one told me to do so, but I got such a good feeling from it that soon I was repeating it most of the time. You see how nature works?
So now what is this? This is clairaudis, right? So we've got all our physical senses and we have the expanded states of all the senses. So you have clairvoyance for visual, you have clairaudis, you have clairsentient, and then for taste and smell also there's a clair. So many times what happens in the workshops, people smell things which are not actually there. People hear things which are not on the tray. People see visions, right? So now the more you can cultivate these visions, the better you get at actually experiencing what nature is actually attempting to tell you. So what was happening over here? He heard a clairaudis mantra. No one told him. He just heard it. So it came from below the line. So we are consciously aware of so much. But at the subconscious level, there is so much available, right? So he heard it. Like all the great artists, etc., say, it came to us. So, like that, the mantra came to him, and then he subsequently started repeating it.
When I was in the first year of college, my classmates and I went to Banaras on a university tour. I met two saints while I was there. One was Bhaskaranand Saraswati, the sadhu who predicted to Lady Willingdon that she would become Viceroy of India. He was honored with a formal reception by the grateful lady when this occurred. Imagine a naked ascetic walking through a cordon of honor composed of troopers with drawn swords. The other saint I met was Telang Swami. He has now left his body after a life of more than 370 years. He weighed only about 300 pounds and he had short white hair and a short beard. He never had anything to do with clothing except for a 1008 bead rosary. He is the only person in the history of Banaras ever to perform a ritual bath of Kashi Vishveshwara, the presiding deity of Banaras, with his own urine and feces. When he did this, one of the temple's priests was so outraged that he came over and slapped Telang Swami, who didn't bother in the least about it and merely went off. That night, the king of Benares saw Kashi Vishveshwara in a dream. The god told him, Telang Swami is my very essence. How dare anyone insult him? The next day, the king tried to locate the priest to punish him, but learned he had died suddenly during the night. Telang Swami was a wonderful Aghori.
So now, what does this imply? So now what does this imply? To an Aghori, urine and feces is not distinct from maybe water and actually dahi, for that matter. In their mind, they've transmuted it. So they create no distinction and they can transmute literally anything into anything else. So now also what this implies is that it's not what you are chadhawing, but with what consciousness and what state of mind are you chadhawing? That is what makes the difference. Today, Shabri was tasting the bear and keeping it for Ramji, right? Now, what was her intent? What was the consciousness from which she was operating? That is what becomes important. So, when we see what our state of mind is when we are doing any act, that really sets the Aadhaar and what is the result of that act. Okay, so it becomes very important that from what state of consciousness we are performing the act.
When I met him, he motioned to me to come over and sit next to him. He never spoke for almost 100 years, and he started playing with my hair and rubbing the back of my head. I left, and I don't know what he did to me, but back in Bombay, I began experiencing some queer things.
Now, Shivangla, just hold on here now, please. Okay, so now what did he do? He touched his head and then touched the back of his head, right? This was like Tathastu. There was a transmutation taking place. We've spoken about this before in the mind mirror. When a person is giving a transmission, the brainwave pattern of the giver and the receiver need to start synchronizing. That is when the Tathastu takes place. So when Telinga Swami touched him, he created a change in the brainwave pattern of Vimalananda, which is why he started experiencing things later on.
One night, Telang Swami came to me in a dream and requested me to return to Benares to visit him again, which I did. At that time, I had no inkling of the nature of the relationship between us. Later, when I met my junior Guru Maharaj, I learned that Telang Swami was his disciple. This made us Guru brothers, and in his magnanimity, he was helping to prepare me for what was to happen next.
So again, basically what happens now is that you can get messages from these people. So transmutation takes place, a sense of knowing takes place, telepathy takes place. When you have a connection with someone, they can actually transmit messages to you and you can receive them.
After some time, a few of my classmates took me to see a Jain ascetic by the name of Jean Chandra Suri. The old man peered at me and, after a close inspection, requested me to bring my horoscope to him the next day. I did, and after carefully perusing it, he inquired about my willingness to learn astrology, palmistry, and physiognomy from him. I don't know what made me agree, but I agreed, and I studied with him for 3 years. He taught me how to construct yantras and perform rituals. I enjoyed it.
So what was the meaning of this now? So everyone has a chart, right? What is an astrological chart? An astrological chart is basically the map of the planets, the day that or the time that you are born. Now there is a combination. Each of the planets have a vibratory frequency. And when you combine the vibratory frequency, it gives a particular result, right? So using a chart, you can actually understand what is the propensity and the capacity of a person. You get an incline of it, provided you know the data, you know the way to read the chart. So this guy who was reading Janampatri saw that Vimalananda had a capacity to
Vimalanand.
learn how to read charts and read the astrological phenomenon in a chart. So he wanted to start teaching him. See, every guru is also in the lookout for a good disciple. As a disciple is on the lookout for a good guru, the guru is also in the lookout for a good disciple.
One day he casually asked me to accompany him on a trip up to Bombay. He took me to Janakpur up in the erstwhile Darbhanga state, which is now part of Bihar. I thought we were just on a holiday, and for 2 or 3 days I had a fine time. The villagers were very hospitable and I enjoyed a good rest. On the new moon night, though, everything went wrong. Jean Chandra Suri came and met me and started speaking very sweetly to me. I wondered what had come over him. There was certainly no need for such ingratiating behavior. I now know he was just fattening me up for the kill. Because after all the preliminaries, he told me, now you are going to do Shav Sadhan.
So now what happened? When this astrologer When this astrologer saw his chart, he found that the planetary configuration in his chart was very, very congenial to a ritual that he wanted to perform. So he wanted to perform the ritual by sacrificing Vimalananda in the ritual. Okay. So he taught him, enamored him, and then took him there in that village so that he could perform that particular sadhana, which is Shav Sadhana.
I had no idea what he was talking about. When I asked him, he explained that a fresh corpse or shav had been obtained and that I was to sit on the corpse and perform a ritual. Apparently, he had looked into my horoscope and realized that I could succeed at this sort of sadhana. He must have planned out the whole drama over the last 3 years.
So now what was happening here? He found that Vimalananda could perform that ritual that maybe he could not perform. So he wanted Vimalananda to perform the ritual for his benefit. Okay.
Well, I told him I had no intention of doing anything like sitting on a corpse and performing sadhana. I had done some yoga before, but our family worships Krishna, and for us it is unthinkable to have anything to do with dead bodies or spirits or anything like them. Besides, since childhood, I could never see a corpse without breaking out in a sweat and falling into a faint, all because I so strongly self identified with the dead individual. Once or twice, when I was out driving, I met a funeral procession and actually lost control of the car and allowed it to run onto the footpath. It was very dangerous. So, I couldn't even imagine what would happen to me were I to sit on a corpse.
So now what was happening here? Whenever he saw a corpse, he self-identified with the corpse. Because when a corpse is there, for some time the spirit hovers around. And since he was in that state of mind, he used to make a connection with that particular spirit which was there and identify with the corpse.
Jean Chandra Suri started to try to convince me, but I was adamant. Finally, he lost his temper. It was the first time I had ever seen the old man get angry. He told me, if you refuse to do it, I'll perform the ritual myself on your corpse. I flared up. Who do you think you are threatening? I assumed he was talking through his hat. To show he meant business, he motioned to a group of drunken tribals who were standing nearby, holding knives, clubs, and other weapons. At his signal, they walked over and surrounded me. I was really in a fix. If I did the sadhana, there was a very good chance I'd die of sheer terror or because some spirit would catch hold of me, or maybe the deity herself would decide to take me as a sacrifice. But if I didn't do it, it was definite I would die. I decided that if I was going to die either way, then I might as well perform the ritual since there would at least be some minor chance of survival that way. When I informed the old man that I would do it, he immediately brightened up and became cheerful again. He started explaining the details of the ritual to me: how to position the corpse, how to sit on it, how to tie the lifeless thumbs and toes. Then he made me drink a full bottle of country liquor. I am the son of a Hindu merchant, and until that moment in my life, I had never even touched an egg, much less a piece of meat or a drop of alcohol. But there was no choice. I took a big pull from the bottle. My God, I thought my throat was on fire. Tears came to my eyes. After all, it was my first time. Jean Chandra Suri was so overjoyed by my agreeing to do the sadhana that he became very solicitous about my condition. Seeing the effect on the moonshine on me, seeing the effect of the moonshine on me, he was so concerned he actually picked up the bottle and started feeding it to me a little at a time.
So over here, how to position the corpse and sit on it, and to tie the lifeless thumbs and toes. So this is like a binding for the corpse. You tie the thing so that the corpse remains stationary and does not get occupied by another spirit. This is one ritual that is taken, which is done. And also the agoric rituals are, when you're in an altered state, so you can use alcohol to also stimulate that altered state, but then you're not consciously aware of what you're doing. Okay, so you're shifting a state of consciousness to be able to do something that otherwise you would not land up doing. So that's why in the army also they give rum to the soldiers before a battle, because then you can work your conscious, the logical mind actually starts getting affected by the alcohol. So you'll find that people who are drunk, they become incoherent and they'll start saying things that they don't want to say, right? So it's a way also of activating the right side of the brain, but it is not a method of consciously activating the right side, which is what we actually want when we are going into spiritual exploration in our condition.
By the time I had finished the whole bottle, all my fear had gone. This was the first time I had ever felt real fear in my entire life. And let me tell you, I was really scared. The only thing left for me was to foul my pants. I was so desperate. I was sweating, my hands were shaking. I was overwhelmed with terror. By the end of that bottle, though, I had lost every iota of my fear. I had made up my mind that I would either succeed at that sadhana or die trying. There was no way out. Challenge and response, the law of the jungle. I was ready.
So so now what does the alcohol do? Now, what does the alcohol do? It stunned the left side of the brain, right? The left side of the brain is which acts in the past or in the future. The right side is only acting in the present, right? So there's no fear. When you are right in the present, there's no fear. You just have to do what you need to do. The fear is there when you're thinking of the future or the past. So when you drink alcohol, the past and the future disappear. That is why when people are stressed out, they drink alcohol. They want to get out of the past and future. They want to get out of the stress. They want to get out of the fear. That is why they consume alcohol. So the same thing happened to him, that although he was very scared about this, the moment he drank the alcohol, all fear vanished. When a person is drunk, the guy can do a lot of courageous things because they have no logic left.
Niket, I have a
Yeah,
question. I
yeah,
mean, all these aghoris, you hear that they have a lot of ganja, you
yeah.
hear on the banks. Is it the same thing which,
No,
or you,
see, now what also happens is that Aghoris, after a point in time, it'll come in the book later on, they have the ability to transmute the intoxicant to and use it as a fulcrum to take them into a deeper and a higher state of consciousness. So an Aghori can like drink 3 liters of alcohol and nothing will happen to him. But yeah, they use these stimulants to stimulate their going into an altered state of consciousness also. Okay, so they are constantly using it, and they use it little, little, little. So they are constantly in that high. They make it a state of consciousness, that having that with having that ganja. So like when you're going into the hemisync process, you can be in F10 all the time. You can be in F12 all the time. So what these people are doing is that they're using the chemical or the that intoxicant to attempt to keep themselves in that state of consciousness. Are you're getting what I mean, right?
Yeah, but Nikit, why would a Agori need something chemical to be there?
No, no.
I would think,
The point here is that they get used to it also, and
okay.
it acts as a stimulant. It's nothing. If a true agori will control the effect of whatever they are taking, but to reach there, like it's like ayahuasca, right? The gentleman who came, Robert, came and told us about ayahuasca. Now, what is ayahuasca? It is it is allowing the spirit of the plant medicine to go into you and take you into an altered state of consciousness. And then once you've experienced that state, it becomes easier for you to access that state. So because of that, these people used to keep taking the intoxicants. If you see the ritual, even in the Native Americans in America, they have the smoke the pipe ritual. Okay, so they pass the pipe, and in the pipe there are certain herbs, etc., which are there, which take them into an altered state, and that's when they get their information as to what to do next, and all that stuff used to happen. So it is there in all cultures.
Okay, thank you.
It is there in all cultures.
This is the beautiful effect of alcohol. You never fear or hesitate once you've taken it. It has a number of side effects, no doubt, and very few people use it for the right purposes. But for certain practices, it is essential. It was really a good thing that I drank that moonshine because it helped me out in several ways.
So as I mentioned, so as I mentioned, when you have alcohol, your logic shuts down. So you can do stuff fearlessly, which you would not do if the logical mind was alive, if the logical mind was still working.
One second. Then I was taken to the corpse. It was that of a young girl of about 15, very pretty. She belonged to a tribe whose members pressed oil from seeds to earn a living. She had been dead only a few hours and was so lovely that I forgot the ritual. the danger, the fear, and everything else, and started thinking only of her. She was beautiful in the way only primitive people can be beautiful. Not an ounce of excess fat, not a wrinkle on her skin, her thighs solid like trees, her breasts absolutely firm. I found myself wishing she was still alive so I could take her off alone to a quiet place and we could enjoy it together. I was even ready to marry her. She looked so lovely. This was not necrophilia or anything perverted. I was just very drunk and I was sorry she was dead and unable to play about with me. I am telling you the truth about all this so you'll have some idea of what it was like.
So now he was drunk, right? So that's why all these thoughts came to him. If he was not drunk, then he would not have had all these thoughts.
While I was drinking, they had taken her to the appropriate spot and pointed her head in the correct direction. Jean Chandra Suri, who was looking very pleased with himself, handed me an object and explained, I am giving you my yantra, which I worshipped for 40 years in Assam. It will take care of you. There is nothing to worry about. I am going to sit over there, he said, motioning to a spot about 100 yards away, and repeat mantras for your protection.
So so the ritual was not without its dangers, right? And this guy, he really could not perform it himself. So he wanted someone who could perform that ritual for him, and he found Vimalanand to be the ideal candidate to do that.
He then took a black thread and did kilana in a big circle around me. Kila means nail, and kilana is meant to nail off or seal off an area to prevent any troublemaking spirit from disturbing your concentration. As long as you remain within the circle, you are safe. The moment you step outside the circle, you've had it. You become a spirit yourself unless there is some ethereal being nearby who can come to your rescue, which is highly unlikely.
So this is a practice, right? Kilana means to hold. So you can create a field around yourself. It's like the Lakshman Rekha that Lakshmanji created around the house where Sita ji was there. So it becomes like a Lakshman Rekha. So when you are doing a ritual, you are actually meant to create a boundary so that that field is created. So it is very much like the Faraday's cage. We talk about the Faraday's cage, I think, in the Vastu workshop, where there was this guy called Faraday and he wanted to do some experiments, and he did not want any other electromagnetic frequency or any electromagnetic vibrations affecting the environment. So what he did was he created a cage of copper and then electrified it and did the experiments inside the cage. So that electrified cage created a kilana, it created a field around that person. So this ritual is there where you put a keel in a place. Many times when we are doing vastu rectification, this thing comes up intuitively that you need to put a nail in a particular spot to keep the stuff in hold. Okay, I've used it in quite a number of places to actually hold the field together.
After the Kilana, the old man told me which mantra to recite, gave me a japamala or rosary to count the repetitions, and shoved a dish of raw meat and a bowl of wine in front of me. The idea was that when the goddess appeared in the form of an animal, I should offer the meat and wine to please her. Satisfied with my worship, she would tell me to ask for a boon and I should reply, do whatever my guru says to do, meaning Jean Chandra Suri. This was all the old man's idea, of course, and I had no intention of saying anything like that. First, I wanted to see whether or not the sadhana would actually work, and then, if it did, I would think about what to ask her for.
So So now you understood why this guy wanted Vimalanand to do that ritual, because he wanted control and he wanted to be able to manipulate and direct what was done by the goddess, right? He was not capable of doing it himself, but in the chart he saw that Vimalananda was capable of doing it, so he manipulated Vimalananda into a position where he did that ritual and he got the goddess to start working for him. Now, there was a occasion, I think some of you may have heard of it. There was this gentleman in Varanasi, in Banaras. His name was Hannu. Hannu. I used to call him Hannu Mama. Now, whenever I went to Banaras, I made it a point to go and visit him. And what he used to do, he used to tell me, bring what is it? That small box of
Bottle
bottle
of
of
whiskey.
whiskey. Uh, what is it called? A pallu or whatever it is called.
Palla.
Okay. So I used to take that one bottle of whiskey with me to him, and he used to have a glass, right? And he used to pour that whiskey into the glass, and then he used to tell me, go and place this glass somewhere outside in the garden. There was a specific spot, and we used to be sitting in the drawing room. There was no one there. The lawn was there, and the glass was kept there. And we used to keep on chatting and talking about other stuff. Then suddenly he used to tell me that, okay, now you go and bring the glass. Right now, no one has come there, but the glass used to be something used to disappear from the glass. And then when I used to bring the glass back, then he used to say, Prashad hai, maa ke pi gayi. And then we used to have a little bit of prashad, and the balance of that whiskey I used to bring back with me. Now, whenever in any space when I went for Vastu visits, etc., where I found a very powerful field over there, I mean an entity and all that, I used to use that whiskey. In fact, I still have a little
Whiskey
bit of,
Pawa.
yeah, paua. It used to be called paua, but a part of that, okay, I have a little bit of that still left. I use it very sparingly, unless very very. I mean, it very
Really?
rare situation in the sense where I can't do anything else. Then I use that, and it works like magic. So how it used to happen, I don't know. But he used to say that Ma aake prashad le li, ab usko utha ke le aao. So this is what he's doing over here. That when the goddess comes, you offer the alcohol and the meat to her to please her. Okay.
Jean Chandra Suri walked off and sat down to start doing jap for my protection. And I knelt on the corpse um, in the manner I had been shown. The supine girl's mouth was open and had been filled with oil. The old man had shown me how to make a wick of raw cotton, and I lit my wick from one of the torches the tribals were carrying. Since it was a new moon night, there was absolute blackness except for this lamp, and I could see nothing but the poor girl's face, which looked ghastly, grotesque in the flickering light of the flame. All my previous desire for enjoyment with her melted away as I peered down into her open, fixed, unstaring eyes. Both of us were stark naked, and her cold body underneath mine caused a sort of creepy feeling to spread through my body and mind.
So many of these rituals are done in a naked state, right? If you see Aghoris, most of the time they don't wear any clothes because it actually clothes hamper the process.
Here again, the alcohol saved me. Being drunk, I was able to shake off the dread and begin my jug, gazing full into her face to concentrate my mind there. The old man had warned me that if she tried to get up, I should knock her down and pin her firmly. So I was intently watching for the least twitch or flinch in her body to alert me to the danger. I suppose this is the most terrifying part of Shav Sadhana because it is an immense strain on your nerves if the corpse suddenly tries to sit up and begins to growl and scream at you.
So, Shimangla,
Many
just one
people have
second.
died of fright at this stage.
Shimangla, 1 second. Okay, so what they are talking about here is a walk-in. Now the girl is dead, but a spirit can walk into the body and activate the body. We have spoken about this before in Ruth Montgomery's books. She talks about this, where a walk-in can take place. So one spirit has been occupying a body. Let us say many times you will find a person is in intensive care and not getting well, not getting well, not getting well. Suddenly the person gets well, but when the person comes back, their nature changes. So many times what happens is that the spirit which was occupying that body says, I don't want to be here anymore. And another person comes into the body to take charge of the rest of the life of that, to use that body for the rest of the period that that body can be used. So over here, the same thing is here, that another spirit can come into the body and wake the body up. So he needed to be careful about that.
One old fellow died right in front of me. He was trying to show off and challenge me to a contest. We procured two corpses. The idea was to see who could bring life into one most quickly and control it most firmly. I warned him that he was too old to be trying such stunts and he was beyond reasoning with. As soon as the corpse started to sit up and he tried to control it, the spirit which had been forced to sit in the corpse caught hold of him. His nerves failed, his heart failed, and he died.
So again, what was happening? A spirit was called to come into the corpse and to wake up the corpse. Okay.
But I didn't have this problem on that first night, which is good since otherwise I probably would not be sitting here telling you the story now. I sat and did my jug. I don't know how many I did, but it can't have been too many before I suddenly began to get very eerie, extremely queer feeling, and I saw a pair of eyes watching me from the darkness. The animal, a jackal, approached me, snarling and baring its teeth. I don't know what came over me. It must have been the alcohol, because I was so drunk. I didn't care for man or beast, but I became furious. I forgot everything I had been told to do. I forgot the wine and meat I was supposed to offer. I reached out of the circle which had been drawn on the ground to protect me, and I grabbed the jackal. I was really incensed and said to it, so you want blood, do you? Take this. And I stuck my hand into its mouth. That liquor really did me immense good. I don't know what I would have done without it.
So what happened? Many times the spirits, they come in the form of animals. Now this is again a very important part of shamanism, where you have helping spirits, right, in the form of animals. They call it power animals. So the goddess or the energies can come in the form of animals.
Should we stop here?
वही पैराग्राफ खत्म कर लो.
Paragraph तो खत्म हो गया.
नेक्स्ट वाला. अच्छा ठीक
Goddess,
है
who
तो.
was temporarily in the form of the jackal, was interested only in blood. One of the beast's teeth pricked my hand between the thumb and index finger, and the jackal licked up the drop of blood that oozed out. And then, all of a sudden, there was Smashan Tara standing before me, smiling, asking what I wanted from her.
So the goddess appeared before him. Now, whether the goddess appeared physically or the goddess appeared in his expanded state of consciousness is besides the point. But the goddess did appear, and the goddess wanted the blood. They didn't want the alcohol and the meat, right? And the goddess appeared. So many times when we sacrifice our own self, that time things start happening. So it's all a matter of being, sacrificing stuff. Anyone, anything to say?
Niket, just to understand one thing, but he did leave his Lakshman Rekha, right?
Yeah, so he got out of
Yeah,
that
yeah.
and he was powerful enough, na?
Okay, yeah.
Basically,
Okay,
that
that's what he said because
guy,
he had drunk.
that,
Yeah, yeah, right.
what was his name? That Chin, whatever. What was his name?
Jean
Sura.
Suri.
Gina,
Jane Suri.
yeah, Gina Chandra Suri
Hmm.
was actually manipulating him for his own power.
Yeah.
Okay. But this guy really understood what he was trying to do. So now Shamshan Tara has come in front of him. So now a relationship will develop between him and Shamshan Tara.
Okay.
Are you all understanding that?
Mm-hmm.
So now he can call on her whenever he wants to, right? So again, see, again, when we look at shamanism also, you have the helping spirits which are in the upper world, and you have the power animals which operate in the lower world. So again, there can be a mix and match between them. But like all our Devi Devtas, most of them are operating in the upper world. So we are making a connection with them. And when we invoke the presence, we can ask them for a lot of support and help. Today, when we are doing the excursion workshop, in the affirmation itself, the first, I mean, the after we set our intent, we ask for help from those who know more or equal to us. So what is that? Getting help and support in our spiritual progress is nothing wrong in it, right? So we use these helping guides, these helping spirits, to help us to evolve into a higher state of consciousness. And that is what this ritual was all about. Okay. Anyone, anything else?
Yeah, Nikki,
Yeah.
I wanted to ask, when you said that when a person dies, you tie their feet up. What did you say about it? I didn't get that quite
Yeah, so
clearly.
what happens is that it's a ritual. When we take a person to the Shamshan Ghat and the body comes, you tie the two thumbs together of the feet. Okay.
Okay.
That actually avoids an entity entering the coming back. Or
Oh,
you see, when a body is there, it is vulnerable. That is why you are told, in our culture at least, that you should, never leave a corpse alone, number one. And also, wherever the corpse is, you should do some kirtan, or you should do some bhajan or some part kind of thing. So entities which are not very congenial do not get an opportunity to enter the uh, enter the body. Okay, so that's the reason why that is done. Of course, nowadays things are a little different, but the fact is that that was the basic concept behind it. Okay, anyone else, anything?
thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so don't get put off by this. He's made it pretty stark in the first this thing itself. It
Chapter.
gets much better as it goes. Okay, all this
Yeah,
Ghoric stuff gets out of the picture.
it's more than one can take actually. I
What?
don't know. It is to imagine all this is also too much. To hear it also,